Hi there, and welcome to the Daily Gardener, and thank you for listening. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling. It's January 17th. Today we celebrate the German botanist whose 1542 book is one of the most historically significant works of all time, and the birthday of a man who discovered the rutabaga. We'll learn about the man known as the father of English botany and the man known as the father of American horticulture. Today's unearthed words celebrate the sleeping winter landscape, and we grow that garden library with a book that helps us create a spa experience in our own homes using herbs from the garden. I'll talk about a garden item that can turn your plants into wall art. And then we'll wrap things up with the story of a man who came up with the idea for a magazine for gardeners who read and readers who garden. But first, let's catch up on a few recent events. Here's today's curated articles. First up is an article from House & Garden. The title of the post was Why the Conifer is Having a Comeback, and it features the head gardener for Great Dixter, Fergus Garrett. Garrett says, conifers do not have to be plonked in island beds with gaudy heathers or peppered around 70s style rockeries like missiles. Their range is mouthwatering, adding form and texture with a twist. And Garrett gives us one piece of advice. He says, if you're integrating conifers into planting schemes, give them plenty of space as their foliage goes brown if there's too much contact with their neighbors. An open, sunny position in a good garden soil suits them best. Now, if you want to check out this post for yourself in the free Facebook group for the show, just search for the word conifer, and this post will pop up. The other post that I curated for you today had to do with painting plants. This post was by Kew Gardens, and they shared the best plants to paint for beginners. If you want to start trying your hand at botanical art, you should know the subjects that are the easiest to try to start painting. First up is the stargazer lily. Hazel Wilkes says, I would recommend going down to your local supermarket or florist and getting a bunch of stargazer lilies. And here's why. If you look at them closely, they have both vibrant and delicate colors. They have large, showy flowers. The petals have lovely, organic, curving lines. Some varieties have dark spots on the petals, which add interest. And overall, they're just bold and beautiful flowers. So whether you're drawing them with ink or with pencil or painting them in watercolor, they make for the perfect subject for beginners. Other flowers that are included in this list included the primrose, apples, anemones, and cotoneaster. If you'd like to read this full post in detail, just search for paint in the Facebook group for the show. Now, if you'd like to check out these curated articles for yourself and you're not in the group, you're in luck because I do share it in the listener community. It's in a free Facebook group and you can join it. All you have to do is go to the top of the search bar the next time you're in Facebook and type in the Daily Gardener Community and then request to join. And then I'll admit you and voila. You're in the group, and all of these posts will start showing up in your Facebook feed. They'll be interspersed with beautiful pictures of your friends and family. Here's today's brevities. Today is the birthday of the German botanist Leonhart Fuchs, who was born on this day in 1501. Leonhart and his wife had 10 children. The genus Fuchsia is named after Fuchs. Leonhart published the first drawing of a corn plant, and he also drew one of the first illustrations of the pumpkin plant, and it was quite beautiful. It took Leonhart 31 years to write his herbal masterpiece called Historia Stirpium. In the book, he describes 497 plants and provided 500 illustrations. In 1542, the book was published, and the medicinal uses for each plant were included in the descriptions. Leonhart's goal was to make the knowledge of herbs accessible to the people, and the fact that his book contained so many illustrations definitely helped him achieve his goal. Leonhart's book described over 100 plants that had never been written about before, like pumpkins, chili peppers, corn, and squash. Leonhart's Historia Stirpium is regarded as one of the most historically valuable and significant books of all time. Now, I wanted to share that the cover of this book, which is beautiful, was a bit of a mystery to me. It shows a tree with a coffin in its branches. And it turns out it was a printer mark of the printer, Michael Isengren, who was the printer of Historia Stirpium. The image of the coffin in a tree forms a Christian cross, and the tree holding the coffin was a holly tree. The depiction of a holly tree was deliberate. Holly is a symbol of eternal life, so essentially the image represents life and death, the coffin in the tree. Incidentally, the holly tree is regarded as the evergreen twin of the oak. And today is the 460th birthday of the Swiss botanist Gaspard Bauern, who was born on this day in 1560. Gaspard spent his life classifying plants, and he ordered plants in a way that's familiar to us today, using binomial names, one for the genus and one for the name of the species. Gaspard was also the first to document a vegetable he named Napobrassica, the vegetable we know today as the rutabaga. Gaspard's name for the rutabaga was prophetic because DNA testing has proven that the rutabaga is the result of a turnip crossing with a cabbage. Gaspard mentioned in his work that the rutabaga was grown in the northern fields of Bohemia, where the people simply called it root. Can you survive on rutabagas, or Swedish turnips as they're sometimes called? Yes, you can. Rutabagas can grow to be as big or bigger than a bowling ball. Almost a year ago, Helen Rosner wrote an article called What a Rutabaga Does Better Than Anything Else. And it turns out that the rutabaga is perfect for making neutral tasting, nicely textured vegetable noodles. Use turnips and the noodles are too spicy. Use zucchini and the noodles are meh. Use carrots and the noodles are too sweet. But rutabaga noodles are just right. Rosner's favorite restaurant in Brooklyn makes rutabaga noodles using a Japanese slicer, resulting in perfect paper ribbons of rutabaga. If you looked at the finished dish, you'd never know they weren't real pasta. Gaspard wrote Pinax Theatri Botanici, an illustrated exposition of plants. In his book, he described thousands of plants, and he classified them using binomial nomenclature. Naturally, his work is considered a forerunner to that of Carl Linnaeus. And today is the anniversary of the death of the botanist and theologian John Ray, who died on this day in 1705. Ray is regarded as the most distinguished British naturalist of the 17th century and the father of English botany. Ray was born to a blacksmith, and his mother was an herbalist. He was an ordained minister, but then turned his attention to zoology and botany after the King of England ordered the clergy to condemn their covenant with the church. In 1650, 25 years before the first maps of Europe were written for the masses, Ray went on a quest. He traveled around Europe for 3 years with 2 friends, and he observed flora and fauna. Ray coined the botanical terms petal and pollen. His book, Historia Plantarum, was the first textbook of modern botany. The naturalist Gilbert White wrote, "Our countryman, the excellent Mr. Ray, is the only describer of plants and animals who conveys some precise idea in every word and term, maintaining his superiority over his followers and imitators." The sculptor Faith Winter created a distinguished-looking statue of John Ray, and it was unveiled by the botanist David Bellamy on October 11th, 1986. And today is the anniversary of the death of the Scottish-American plantsman Peter Henderson, who died on this day in 1890. Known as the father of American horticulture, Peter published Gardening for Profit in 1866, followed by Gardening for Pleasure. Gardening for Profit was the first book to ever be written about market gardening in the United States. When Peter arrived in the United States, he worked for some time for the nurserymen George Thornburn and Robert Buist. After years of refining his growing systems and practices, he established his seed company on his 49th birthday. Peter ran the company alongside his 2 sons, Alfred and Charles. In Peter's biography, written by his son Alfred, it said, "His long experience as a market gardener probably made him realize more than most seedsmen the necessity of testing seeds before offering them for sale. But whatever the cause, the fact remains that he was the first in this country to initiate the true and natural way of proving the vitality of seeds, and that is by sowing them in the soil. The seedman's usual plan being to germinate them in moist cotton or flannel, nearly always a misleading method. Peter lived nearly his whole life in Jersey City. He began a friendship with Andrew Carnegie after reading his book called Triumphant Democracy. He also became friends with Reverend Henry Ward Beecher. It turns out they shared a giddy love for flowers. Mr. William R. Smith, the superintendent of the Botanic Gardens in Washington, paid Peter the highest possible tribute, calling him the great horticultural missionary. In Unearthed Words, here are some poems that use a sleeping metaphor to describe the landscape in winter. This first one's from Conrad Aiken, the American writer. The hiss was now becoming a roar. The whole world was a vast moving screen of snow. But even now, it said peace. It said remoteness. It said cold. It said sleep. And here's a verse from Lewis Carroll, the English writer. I wonder if the snow loves the trees and fields, that it kisses them so gently. And then it covers them up snug, with a white quilt. And perhaps it says, go to sleep, darlings, till the summer comes again. And here's an excerpt from The Cold Earth Slept Below by Percy Bysshe Shelley, the English Romantic poet. The cold earth slept below, above the cold sky shone, and all around with a chilling sound from caves of ice and fields of snow, the breath of night like death did flow beneath the sinking moon. The moon made thy lips pale, beloved. The wind made thy bosom chill. The night did shed on thy dear head its frozen dew, and thou didst lie where the bitter breath of the naked sky might visit thee at will. And finally, here's an excerpt from the poem called Winter Sleep by the American poet Eleanor Wiley. Birds of azure and flame, birds go to the tropical Gulf of Mexico. They chase the sun, they follow the heat. It's sweet in their bones. Oh, sweet, sweet, sweet. It's not with them that I'd love to be, but under the roots of the balsam tree, just as the spiniest chestnut burr is lined within with the finest fur, so the stony-walled, snow-roofed house of every squirrel and mole and mouse is lined with thistledown, seagull's feather, velvet mullein leaf heaped together, with balsam and juniper, dry and curled, sweeter than anything else in the world. Oh, what a warm and darksome nest, where the wildest things are hidden to rest. It's there that I'd love to lie and sleep, soft, 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 and deep, deep, deep. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, The Herb Lover's Spa Book by Sue Getz. This book came out in 2015, and the subtitle to this book is Create a Luxury Spa Experience at Home with Fragrant Herbs from Your Garden. Yes. Sue shows us just how easy it is to grow and prepare therapeutic herbs for a custom spa experience in the comfort of your own home. It will help you unplug, relax, and make the world go away. Sue was the perfect author for this book. She's an herb gardener, a spa enthusiast, and an award-winning garden designer. She gives us simple tips for growing and preparing herbs for aromatherapy oils, lotions, tub teas, masks, scrubs, sachets, and more. You can get a used copy of the Herb Lover's Spa Book by Sue Getz and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for under $3. Great deal. And here's today's gift for gardeners. It's a pack of 6 glass planters. These are wall-hanging planters. They're round and they're glass. They hang on the wall, and you get the set of 6 for $22.99. I had a friend who had these little globe planters on her walls, and she filled them all with succulents and air plants. And then over the holidays, she added mini LED lights that have the warm color, not the cold color, but the warm colored ones. They are battery operated, and they looked really great. So she hung hers with screws, and I'm planning on using my favorite moldable glue product, Sugru, to hang mine. Anyway, they look very cool on the wall with air plants or with pothos or whatever you have. It ends up looking like plant art for your walls. It's perfect for anywhere. Mine are going in the guest bedroom. If you want to order one for yourself, just click on the link in today's show notes. You can get the pack of 6 glass planters and support the show by using the Amazon link. Finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. Congratulations to Country Life contributor David Wheeler. His gardening journal, Hortis, is now 31 years old. He started it on this day in 1989. Adrian Higgins wrote about David's founding of Hortis in the Washington Post 8 years ago, saying, "A curious throwback to the analog age landed in my mailbox the other day. Hortis, a journal of garden writing." Almost everything about the quarterly periodical is wonderfully old-fashioned. It produces tactile and aesthetic pleasures once taken for granted. Flop in a chair, thumb the pages, and ponder that Hortis doesn't exist in some electronic ether. The only way you're going to get a copy of Hortis is in your mailbox. David Wheeler started Hortis 31 years ago. Wheeler has a motto that Hortis is for gardeners who read and for readers who garden. 31 years later, the subscription list continues to stay modest. Subscriptions are about $75 a year, which includes airmail postage. Wheeler also writes for newspapers and other periodicals to supplement his income. He tells his friends that Hortis pays for the tonic, but not the gin. And just for your information, I just bought a subscription myself. So Merry Christmas to me. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced weekdays in lovely Maple Grove, Minnesota. You can find complete show notes over at thedailygardener.org. And be sure to share the show with your garden friends. You can find The Daily Gardener on all your favorite social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest, and of course, Facebook. While you're over at Facebook, don't forget to join the Daily Gardener community. Just search for these 3 words, Daily Gardener Community. The group will pop right up and then request to join. Finally, I want to thank my team at Podfly Productions, where my fabulous editor is Eric Begay. Have a great weekend in the garden, and we'll see you on Monday.